meeting. Are you Michaela?
Yes.
Oh, I hope, am I saying your name right?
Saying it right.
Okay, well, thank you for having me. I guess you're running this show, right?
Yep.
And I want to thank my friend Jerome Boast for encouraging me to come. It's so important for me to hear from you all. I'm afraid I can't stay very long, but I do hope that you can let me know some of the concerns that are on your mind. I'm Bridget Fleming. I'm a former criminal prosecutor. I'm now a county legislator, and I'm running to represent the first congressional district in the United States Congress. So it's a pretty exciting undertaking. It's an open seat that's held by a Republican now who's running for higher office, Lee Zeldin. So I'm a Democrat, so it's a pretty cool opportunity to flip a seat. And as we look at the balance sheet in the entire United States for Congress and what's at stake, it's very exciting for me, and truthfully a little pressure to see that this is a really important undertaking that we're hoping to be able to pull over the finish line. So just a tiny bit about me. I come from a working class family. My grandmother came from Ireland when she was 16 years old. She met a young man from Ireland in Brooklyn. I think that happens a lot, right? That they're from the same town in another country, and then they met here. But he passed away early, and so she was faced with raising her kids by herself. She was a maid in hotels in New York City. And so my dad, who was her fourth child, was inspired by seeing the conditions of the immigrant service workers in the hotel industry at the time. He was inspired to become a labor leader. So he organized hotel workers, and then he became a pension fund administrator for bakery, confectionery, and tobacco workers in that union. And so my mom actually got her bachelor's degree after the seventh of my siblings graduated from high school and went off to college herself. So, and then my mom went on to get a master's. She was a really good writer. But they basically taught us, that we are in this, we're all in this together. Nobody gets here, nobody gets anywhere alone. And so we have an obligation to look out for one another. And that's why I went into public service. I was an assistant district attorney. I helped volunteer lawyers after the 9/11 attacks, help the families of those who were lost in the attacks. And now for the past 10 years, I have been, trying to do what I can to make the lives of ordinary Long Islanders a little bit better. We have a lot at stake in this race, and there's not much gray area. My opponent is anti-choice. He's against common sense solutions to our gun violence epidemic. He took a early voting site off of Shelter Island, so he's moving to reduce election opportunities to vote. I believe he and the agenda that he's putting forward is really looking to kind of cut off American prosperity for any but the very few. I'm running for Congress because I believe, like my grandmother, everyone should have a fair shot at the American dream. And that means education that is reasonably priced and accessible. It means healthcare that is accessible and affordable. It means housing that is accessible and affordable, a really critical issue here on Long Island. But it also means a tax system that's fair not only to the wildly profitable corporations, but also, and billionaires, but also just to ordinary folks. So we're looking to drive these policy beliefs of ours to folks who are receptive and ensure that this resonates. Two of the biggest issues for us are, first of all, I believe as a former criminal prosecutor that every community has the right to live without fear, and that we must do something to end the epidemic of gun violence in our communities. And also, now more than ever, I believe that the government just has no place in an examination room when a woman is trying to make a decision about what happens to her own body, what happens to her medical care, what happens to her future. The government doesn't belong there. And so, these are the things that we stand for. We've got a ton of support from organized labor, from students. We got a lot of young people in our campaign, which is so great, because I worry about you all. I mean, it's a terrible time right now in our country, and you've got a lot on your shoulders coming out of COVID, which was so difficult for young people. Now, on top of that, you know, the democracy is really at stake, and you have these fundamental freedoms that we took for granted. Young women in your age group have less freedoms than I had when I was your age, and that's not the American way. We don't go backwards. So that's what I stand for. I don't believe we should go backwards. I don't think we need to, as long as each of us takes on the role that we've been given, you know, and do it to the very best of our abilities, with good hearts, with commitment, and with an understanding that you know, we're all in this together, and we can reclaim American patriotism for those who believe the American dream should be accessible to everyone. So thank you very much for letting me introduce myself to you all. I'm happy to answer some questions. I do look forward to the, you know, to the extent that I can, to stay and listen to what you're discussing. But I'm super glad that you are as engaged as you are, because America, you know, I don't want to put more pressure on you. I have a sophomore in college myself, and I just am so aware of how tough it's been. But I do really welcome the fact that you are participating and you care, because we have a great country, we really do, but we need to make sure that being Americans means allowing access and opportunity to everyone, and not just the very few. So thanks a lot for letting me come in and say hi.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Once again, thank you everyone for being here. I saw some new people log on as Bridget was speaking. Thank you so much for offering your very wise words. I'm thrilled to be moderating this panel discussion. My name is Mikhaila, and I'm the Gen Z Civic Engagement Coordinator with Minority Millennials. This was a role that was added on within the last 2 months, and I am beyond proud to serve as a youth voice for our communities. We are so excited to have launched our Gen Z Voter Visibility Week of Action. On behalf of Daniel Lloyd, the president and founder of Minority Millennials, who unfortunately can't be here today, I just want to let you know a little bit about this organization. Minority Millennials is a fast-growing 501c3 committed to helping young people of color access jobs, build wealth, and become civically engaged. We provide them with the tools necessary to drive innovation and progress in their communities. We are committed to driving equitable development and community transformation through public-private partnerships with local government, businesses, and communities. On Long Island and across the world, the minority is the new majority. The rapid growth of the minority population in America shows no signs of slowing down, yet minority populations are still underrepresented and underfunded. Furthermore, a commitment to equity and inclusion is essential, and Minority Millennials and Gen Z are demanding change. For anyone who is interested in working with Minority Millennials and/or voters of tomorrow, please feel free to connect with us. Before we begin our panel discussion, I just want to thank all of our elected officials for coming tonight. We will be having officials enter in and out throughout the meeting, so I thank you all for taking the time to hear Gen Z today. I ask that everyone please remain muted today until the end of our program. Thank you, and let's begin. Can I have our panelists introduce themselves, beginning with Krishna?
Hi, everyone. My name is Krishna. I'm the New York State chapter lead for Voters of Tomorrow. We're a nonpartisan organization working to represent young people in government and in politics. A lot of the work that we've done at a state level is recently registering people to vote in the upcoming midterms and future elections. This week, we collaborated with Minority Millennials to hold a week of action. And today is one of those events. Later on in the week, we have text banks, phone banks for everyone who's interested. I encourage everyone to sign up.
Oh, you know what? Can you run to? Oh.
And yeah, that's who I am.
All right, awesome. I saw that Jackie Gordon hopped on really quick. Do you want to say a few words before we introduce our next panelist?
Sure. So I'm Asa Boudram. I'm 20 years old. I'm currently a junior at John Jay studying forensic psychology. Currently what I do, I work for a Town of Babylon attorney's office. I'm an investigator, part of a newly created team by Rich Schaefer. Our goal is to target quality of life issues and other public safety issues within the town.
All right, awesome. And can we have Brendan introduce yourself, please?
Yes, I'm Brendan Kaminsky, as Michaela said, and I am a high school student in my 11th grade year and part of the 2021 to 2022 cohort of iCivics Equity and Civics Youth Fellowship. I'm also a member of Voters of Tomorrow and am interested in working to get our next generation of citizens ready to vote and ready to be civically engaged. Thank you for having me.
All right, and next, Justin, please.
Hey y'all, my name is Justin. My pronouns are he, him. I'm the mobilization director at Voters of Tomorrow. We are currently active. I mean, Krishna gave our wonderful vision statement, but we're currently active in 23 states plus DC, New York being one of them, and I'm so excited to join you all today.
And next we have Sonia.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sonia Abel. I'm a junior in high school at Brooklyn Technical High School in downtown Brooklyn. I'm also the social media manager at Voters of Tomorrow's national team, and I'm also involved with the New York chapter at Voters of Tomorrow. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, and Miriam.
Hi guys, my name is Miriam Allen. I'm 17. I go to St. John the Baptist High School in West Islip, New York. I'm part of Jack and Jill, and today I'm representing them. So thank you guys for having me.
All right, and last but certainly not least, Timothy Jules.
Hi everyone, my name is Timothy Jules. I'm from Winers Memorial High School, and I'm representing the Capital League today and as their vice president.
All right, awesome. I know Steve Stern wanted to give a few brief words before we begin our panel discussion. You're on mute.
How's that? Okay, very good. All right. Good evening, everyone. It's great to be with you, and thank you for having me for just a few minutes this evening. I'm New York State Assemblyman Steve Stern. I represent the 10th Assembly District, which is made up mostly of the town of Huntington on Long Island. But much more importantly, I am the father of two young adults, both about college age students. And so the work that you do, are doing, will be doing going forward, I can tell you, is incredibly important, not just as a policymaker, not just as somebody who's very interested in sharing your priorities, but as a parent. And so I can tell you, I knock on thousands of doors every day, meeting with my neighbors to find out what is most important to them. And so, certainly being from Long Island, I can share with you that what most people will raise with me is the issue of taxes. Of course, taxes and cost of living on Long Island are challenging. But what I can also tell you is that when people take the time to come out and speak with me and just don't rage on and on about taxes, but come out on their front porches and talk to me about what's really, really going on at home and what's most important, I can tell you that these issues that you are so concerned about and raising awareness of are the issues that my neighbors are most concerned with. How are we going to be able to keep our best and our brightest, our young people here at home? How are we going to provide them with opportunity to live on Long Island and lay down roots and become part of the next generation? How are we going to make it affordable for them to be here for the long term? How are we going to be able to make it so that they want to be here and lay down those roots? Those are the issues that my neighbors, regardless of age, will spend time out on the front stoop talking about. So I say congratulations, but most importantly, thank you to all of you for your passion and for your commitment, for your involvement. I know that these are issues that are important to each of you personally, but I can tell you that they are critically important for all of us that wish to continue Long Island home and ensure that it remains a great place to work and to live and to raise a family going forward for generations to come. And I would also say that going forward, I know very well that the best ideas always come from my neighbors, particularly my younger neighbors. So never hesitate, whether it's through many of the great organizations that you're working with, or even to contact my office directly. I continue to want to hear from all of you to see about opportunities where we continue to work together going forward. So again, thank you for all that you do, for all of your efforts. I know that not just voting, but becoming engaged, remaining engaged with the political process and working together certainly get good things done. So thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Assemblymember Stern. Jackie? Jackie, you're muted.
Thank you. Little technical difficulties. Thank you so much for having me, for inviting me, for including me. I appreciate it. I'm grateful to be here with you. And as all of you probably know, I'll just tell you briefly, I'm a combat veteran. I was in the reserves for 29 years, serving my country, 4 deployments, retired as a lieutenant colonel, retired honorably as a lieutenant colonel. I was in education for 32 years, and I also served on the Babylon Town Board. I've served my community and my country since I'm 20 years old for the last 30 years. Very similar to many of you, kind of on the same trajectory and on the same path. And I think it's really important, and this is why I would not miss this invitation to be with you, because everything we're doing is for you, and you will be the beneficiary of all the decisions that we make and all the choices that we make for our environment, for education, for housing, and the list just goes on and on. And so I think it is so important that you all have a voice and take part in this process. And that's why it's important for me to make sure that I have young people involved in my campaign and in all of the endeavors that I do. And so Asa, I believe I saw Asa on here. I've known Asa since he's 3 years old, and he can vouch for me that I always heed his advice. I ask him what he thinks as I move forward. I listen, I hear, and I think it's really important that we do that up and down the line when we're making decisions as we move forward. And so I look forward to continuing to work with you. I plan on winning on November 8th. And so it will be important that we continue to keep this relationship going. But no matter what happens on November 8th, we're going to keep this relationship going. And I look forward to continuing to build this friendship that we are cultivating. And as we move forward, we have a lot at stake. We've come far, but clearly there are forces that are making us go back and redo some of the work. And that's okay. Harriet Tubman said, keep going. No matter what happens, keep going. And that's what we're going to do. So thanks again for having me. I do have to hop. I'm actually at another event. I just would be remiss if I didn't stop in. So thank you so much for having me.
Really awesome. Thank you so much. All right, so now we're going to move into our panel discussions, starting first with Krishna. Krishna, what led you to create the Voters of Tomorrow New York State chapter? Do you recommend more youth start their own organizations?
That's a good question. I like to say I sort of added on to an organization that was already at a really good starting point. I've worked in local politics and kind of like voter registration work for a long time, especially on Long Island. So when I came across Voters of Tomorrow, I thought I could use my skills and like my past experiences to kind of add on to the organization and make sure we have a larger presence in New York. And I think that's like the biggest way a lot of young people can help. It's really by using their knowledge, their skills, their perspectives, and adding on to different organizations or different movements. So we kind of have that bigger outreach on all parts.
All right, awesome. Brendan, why is it important to be civically engaged, and how has that helped you as a student and a youth leader? Why are you passionate about the social issues that impact you?
Well, I guess I'll start with the first question first. I mean, I think right now, especially, it's more important than ever to be civically engaged, just because right now, especially in this election, there are so many crucial and essential decisions that are on the ballot. And when we're voting, when we're exercising that civic liberty, that civic privilege that we have, it's important for us to be informed voters. We want to know what we're voting for. We want to elect politicians that we've heard of. We want to elect politicians that we know we can count on to push the issues forward that we would like to see focused on. And I think for me as a student, I feel like it's kind of given me a voice. It's kind of empowered me, this civic movement. It's empowered me to be able to advocate for what I believe in, be able to express my opinions. And I think one of the main programs that really helped me do that was, as I mentioned earlier in my introduction, was the Equity in Civics Youth Fellowship that I was in. And I feel like knowing that youth have the ability to make change, to engage in political campaigns, like so many of the panelists here have engaged in and worked on, to engage in voter registration. I feel like it empowers me and it kind of inspires me to see that I can do a lot too. I can do a lot to change society. Even though I can't vote yet, there's still a ton of things that I could do to support this movement and also be a better prepared voter in the future. And just to get to touch on your second question, I think a lot of the social issues that I'm really passionate about are revolving around the education field. I think right now we're seeing a lot of teachers who are unfortunately leaving the profession because they don't feel valued. They don't feel like they're trusted individuals. And obviously that is sad to me because I want to go into the profession as well. But it's also sad because I've always viewed teachers as having one of the most important roles in society. Because if you think about it, they're fostering the people who are going to vote, the people who are going to become businessmen, the people that are going to become doctors, lawyers, etc., name any profession. They're involved in that development. So I feel right now, obviously, I want to go in the education field. So issues involving that are important. But I think improving the conditions of our teachers, making it a profession that is desirable, is definitely something that motivates me because I think it's such an important and crucial part of our societal makeup.
Awesome, Brendan. Justin, what were some of the issues that you fought for in high school, and why is it important for students to raise awareness and fight for the issues that impact them?
Yeah, thank you. So I guess my introduction to activism and journey has sort of been it's felt a bit backwards, where I've started very broad on the national scale and have gone in, as I've gotten more involved, more local and more granular. And so my introduction to activism and advocacy really began at the start of the pandemic in 2020. I was 16 years old, and I was, with school shutting down and not being able to do what direct action things I've done in the past of like volunteering wherever. And that really, in kind of unfortunate, but just a good something good just coming out of the whole bad of the pandemic, of getting me into the world of activism. And I got very involved in combating voter suppression just around the country, around youth education, around elections in 2020. And from there, I started to think about things that I could do more locally. I'm from Massachusetts, and so I was thinking about some voting rights legislation we could do more locally around registering my peers to vote. And it took it was, with all of the things happening nationally, moving so slowly with gridlock, really I found statewide and locally to be far more both fulfilling, but then also far greater opportunities to plug in and actually tangibly make quite a difference. And I guess to give you an example, like when there was a school board election that I really didn't know this past year, when this is the first election cycle in which I'm able to vote, when I didn't know who to vote for the school board candidates, I organized a forum for the candidates just so that way I could ask them a bunch of questions, and that's how I was able to decide. And on the local level, that is just so much more available and easy to make a difference. Now, for the issues that I was taking action on, I mean, I mentioned combating voter suppression and getting out the youth vote. There was also, with this past year with March for Our Lives, after the shootings in Uvalde and Buffalo and elsewhere, organizing in Boston, the March for Our Lives, where we had around 2,000 people there demanding federal and statewide action on gun violence. And really, when it comes to youth activism in general and the work that I'm doing now with Voters of Tomorrow, it's really empowering and enabling other local youth activists across the country to take action on the issues that are most inspiring to them, whether it's our Georgia chapter working to bring together a coalition around clean energy investment in their state, or Texas or Virginia chapters distributing banned books in their high schools and colleges and elsewhere, or just all these incredible, more local type actions dealing with youth pain points in those communities. And so for why it's so important, I think, for students to engage with this, not just because, I mean, we care about these issues, but the decisions being made right now, both federally and locally, are going to have the longest lasting impact on our lives. We are the greatest stakeholders in the decisions being made right now in government. And there's such a thin line between giving up and becoming disengaged with politics and voting, and then becoming an activist and voting in every election, of that apathy. I mean, voting is a habit, and building it so early among our peers, of despite so much noise and issues, showing the potential for positive impact. And it's tiring, but change is possible, and we've seen it happen. And it's just a matter of engaging people and bringing people in to become those organizers and activists and voting in every election, versus becoming disengaged with politics, as when you see so much happening, that too often can be the case. So for youth voters, I guess, just to sum up, it really is a matter of, that's my alarm thing going off. It really is just a matter of survival for us, of the climate crisis, gun violence in our communities and our schools, the fabric of our democracy. And we have everything to lose and everything to gain. And elected officials pay attention to voters, to people that give them the power. And so that is why it's just so important for youth to get involved and stay involved.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Justin. Sonia, so you have a lot of experience working with local government. What have you learned about how government works throughout this process?
Sure. So, as I mentioned, I am a high school student in New York City and a staff member at Voters of Tomorrow, but I've also worked on some small and local city council, district leader, state legislature campaigns in New York City. And this summer, I worked for the New York City Mayor's office as a student intern. And through all of this experience, I picked up a lot about the importance of youth participation, particularly within local government. The main thing that I think more people need to understand about local government and about youth power is the direct impact that your local legislators have on your lives and your ability as a young person to make changes within your local government. Local government doesn't only mean your mayor or your state legislature. There are also smaller races like city council and district leader in New York State, which is not everywhere, but has been important historically in New York. And these races can be especially pivotal and don't receive the attention that a lot of other races do. And these offices have a demonstrable impact on your daily life and the daily lives of young people across the state, especially students. And I've experienced this myself. I live in Brooklyn, and recently the city council passed a bill that removed millions of dollars from my school alone, which had a drastic impact on the way that my school runs, on my classmates, on me. And that impact is not always connected to these elections. And not only do these elections impact us, these races are also some of the best opportunities for us, for young people, to influence change, because often the people who are winning these races are only winning by a few hundred votes. Maybe it's only 50 votes. And as young people, we can canvass, we can talk to voters, we can make those changes, and we can affect change on who is representing us. And while national and high-profile races receive most of the attention, the main thing I want my peers to know is that they should be investing their time and their energy in these local races as well. So thank you so much.
Great, well said, Sonia. Asa, what are some of the social issues that you deal with on a day-to-day basis when working with the Town of Babylon Attorney's Office?
Okay, so I'm kind of coming from a different perspective. I'm the one listening to the community and the voters and what they want. So some of the issues that they want is a handle on the quality of life and public safety. And it kind of goes into, voicing what you want. This is why the youth need to voice what they want. Obviously, the elected official who put me in this place or is listening to the community, and this is some of the things that they want. So some of the social issues that I deal with range from homelessness, drug abuse, the drug house on the block, the squatter house on the block, or slumlords taking advantage of immigrant families. There's a variety of things that we do, but for example, the homelessness, we came together and we created a joint task force with New York State, MTA police, Suffolk police, other homeless outreach organizations, to where actually tomorrow or 2 days from now, we're going to go out into Copeg and other communities to where we know there's a lot of homeless people who need help. So we're going there, providing help and coming to them, getting them houses immediately upon contact. So, it's various things like that, or, going, to different houses where Hispanic, especially immigrant families, are being taken advantage of by different slumlords. Kids are getting lead poisoning, and they're living about a boiler with all these different bugs and rodents and all these different situations, and they're paying an arm and a leg for this. So we're going out there, we're tackling this. We're going out there, we're slamming the slumlords. We're making sure that these people are safe and that we really care for these problems. And it's not just the citizens reaping the benefits, it's also the animals. Another issue that people were complaining about is the house on the block with all these dangerous dogs, these big dogs. So we go take a look into that. And some of the things that we found is, illegal breeding. We also found, dog fighting. So we teamed up with the Suffolk County DA's office, specifically their Beast unit, which takes action into different animal crimes. So we teamed up with them and we started hitting a whole bunch of houses, trying to save these animals. A lot of the animals were taken to the shelter by animal control. And, the conditions were terrible. Like, you can't even fathom, how people could sit there and do this to animals. Like, but we're very active, and it's all a part of this quality of life, public safety, team put together, and we're listening to the community. Whatever they want, we're on top of it. We're out there trying to become proactive in combating this. So if we speak up, if we come together as youth, whatever problems you guys have, you take it up with any elected official. Trust me, if you are able to do that, your problems will be solved.
All right, great, awesome response. Miriam, why is it so important for Gen Z and millennials to go and get out and vote this midterm election?
Thank you so much for that question. Voting in itself holds so much power for change. It is important for Gen Z and millennials to vote in order for our voices to be heard. This upcoming election, those able to vote should make every effort possible to. We are the change we want to see in the future. It is also important that those able to vote be educated on what they are voting for. Statistically, young voters notoriously neglect the importance of voting. Young votes account for almost half of the voting population, making us a powerful force. Today, it is easier than ever with technology to vote. The current online climate allows young voters to form a fuller picture of the candidates they're voting for. It is of utmost importance that we make sure our voices are heard in order to be part of the change we want to see in the future.
All right, thank you so much. Timothy, what would you tell to the younger people who want to get involved but aren't really sure how to?
I would tell them to look for nearby voting drives and fill out voting applications at nearby libraries and go to your guidance counselor. Hopefully they can work with them and explain it to them and make it more understandable. And you can also look online, because there are a lot of things that are more online now, and there's more websites and everything to give you easier access to learn how to get out there and learn how to vote. But us as a Capital League, as an organization, every year we reach out to the students in our community, encourage them to vote, and teach them about voting. We do different voting drives and different things to get our community and students more involved in voting. And they tell a friend, and then more people just come in, and then it turns out to be a great success. And people that really didn't know how to really get involved into voting came into voting, and they wanted to make a big change, but they just didn't know how. So us bringing that into the community, helping these students that really don't have that much coming from this certain backgrounds, really help them out.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much, guys. All right, so this finished the first part of our panel discussion, and now after, we're going to have one question for the rest of the panelists. It's going to be, what is the biggest social issue that impacts you? But before we do that, I'm pretty sure Assembly Member Taylor Darling wanted to say a few words. I'm pretty sure she's at an engagement right now, so we'll just wait a couple seconds for her to see if she's ready to speak. Oh, looks like she's ready to speak.
I am here and I am listening. I am so excited to be here with each and every one of you. Hold on, let me make sure this is not too blurry. Can everyone see me? Can you guys hear me? Okay, cool. All right, so I'm so excited to be here with each of you. I'm Assemblywoman Taylor Darling, and I have the greatest honor of life, which is representing the 18th Assembly District here in the state of New York. That includes areas in East Meadow, Baldwin, Garden City, Merrick, Hempstead, Uniondale, Freeport, and Roosevelt. I am up for re-election for my third term. And I just think what you guys are doing here is just so beautiful, because you guys are my favorite type of people. You are action figures. I say it all the time. We don't need more political figures. We need action figures, people who are willing to put their knowledge, skills, and abilities into place so that we can improve the quality of lives for everyone around us. And I wanted to ask you guys a really quick question. How many of you ever attended a course that was sort of like participation in government, where it taught you how to vote, it taught you the importance of voting, it taught you how to be engaged civically in your community? You guys can like raise your hands. How many of you have participated in a course like that? And that is exactly why we're having this problem. I really do feel like it's by design that this is not a mandated part of our curriculums here in New York State. If it was, there would be a lot more people participating. So sometimes I wonder if government really wants us all to participate, because minority millennials is exactly I think the group that some people are very afraid of. And minority millennials as an organization is something that I hold very near and dear to my heart, because I am actually a minority millennial. So these problems are not conceptual to me. They are problems that I live every single day. And I think I've spoken to a couple of you on this panel, hi Krishna, who have been just integral in me understanding, okay, I'm a millennial on maybe the upper side, but there are other issues that are coming up. And you guys are like the biggest group that is coming. So there is, I think, an element where they don't want you to be informed, and they want you to be distracted by TikTok and everything else going on. Because once you're informed, you guys have the numbers to bring about that type of change. And I want to say my favorite word is equity. That is what I fight for every single day. That's what gets me out of bed. I think my alarm actually says equity, get up and go get it. And my other favorite phrase is building generational wealth. We can have all the concepts we want. We can even be civic minded, but without wealth and without capital behind that, our efforts are going to be so much harder. Not impossible, but a lot harder. So whoever does have that nice little nest egg, they are going to have an advantage in this world. Running for office is not a poor person's game at all. Like, it takes a lot of money and a lot of time, which I think is a violation of our democratic rights. But that's another story for another day. I just want to shout out everyone on the panel. And I want to shout out Dan Lloyd, your founder and president. He is a very close personal friend of mine. And he brings conversations and partnerships to what's important to us as minority millennials in a way that no one else can or really cares to do. So very happy to be here. Very happy to listen to your responses. You guys are brilliant. And thank you so much for this space.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much. All right, so now we're going to move into our last question in the same order, starting with Krishna. What is the biggest social issue that impacts you?
I think one of the biggest social issues that has impacted kind of where I live is the recent, I guess, like the way the classroom has sort of become politicized. I had an English teacher freshman year, and I remember we got to read a whole like different books, and one of them specifically was about kind of like the experiences that a lot of trans youth have in the country. And recently I went back to speak with her, and now the district is ensuring that that book is no longer like taught in classes. And I think that sort of, I guess, anti-intellectualism, where we're kind of cracking down on what people know and how history is being taught, is something that really impacts me specifically, because I take a lot of history courses, a lot of, I guess, even in like classes like sociology, where you're forced to have those discussions about diversity, about people's roles in society. And because of this new kind of rise of anti-intellectualism, I think everything has gotten it's gotten more hostile to be able to have these discussions, especially if you're part of those marginalized groups. And I think when we're not able to have these conversations, when we're not able to correctly be taught history, I think we're losing a lot of our, I guess, our right to know our history. And that leads to so many more issues. It makes the learning environments more hostile for everyone. It makes just going day-to-day life a little bit more complicated, because people are less aware of social issues, and therefore they're not as accepting. And I think the biggest thing we kind of need right now is just being able to have these conversations.
Yeah, 100% Krishna, definitely. Brendan, so I'm curious to see what you have to say.
Yes, I definitely resonate a lot with what has been said already. I mean, I think one of the issues for me, specifically in like how I've kind of been through my scholastic, I guess, journey, if you can call it that so far, if you can call it that, is that when I was in elementary school, we were very concentrated on math in English and science as well. And I think we've kind of mentioned that obviously there really isn't a requirement for a government participation in government class that really instructs students on essentially how to be civically engaged citizens in our country, because essentially after leaving high school, that's really the next step. And I think something that was always frustrating to me, I mean, I remember in elementary school, or like I think was really fifth grade, I would always get like frustrated when so much time and so many, there were like 3 periods of English. There was like a reading period, there was a writing period, there was a spelling period, there's a grammar period. There were like 2 periods of math, there was like 1 period of science, and by the end of that, there was no time for social studies. Like social studies was delegated to a rotational period between science. And most of the time, because there was a state test, I believe in 4th grade, for science, social studies wouldn't really get chosen a lot. And that's just always something that's frustrated me, is just that lack of, seemingly this lack of care within our educational institution for social studies. It's kind of treated as kind of like the boring subject, the not relevant subject, like, oh, it's just talking about the past. It's not really important right now. But I think it's incredibly important, because what we're unfortunately seeing right now is we're seeing a lot of things that, a lot of issues that were in the past are reappearing within society, making it incredibly important to learn from history, learn from those mistakes, and lead more informed lives as citizens in the future. So that was just something, to me, I think we need to see a greater emphasis put on preparing students to, yes, know the history, know the documents, know those lovely skills, know those annotating skills, but also to have a social studies program that is engaging, that is discussion based, that incorporates different perspectives, and that most of all has kids, when they leave school and they leave high school, they're ready to go to the polls, they're ready to vote, they're ready to make a difference and change their lives for the better.
All right, awesome, Brendan. What about you, Justin?
So yeah, so an issue that I've seen very recently, both affecting me and then also just folks around me, is submerged with just like being at college. And this sort of goes to civic education, also just goes to voter suppression in different states, of the varying rules, and all of my classmates trying to navigate those, that way they can vote in the November elections, and figuring out mail-in ballot different rules, or going home to vote, or whatever else. And I think, well, more broadly, just voting and civic participation goes at the core of, and just democracy goes at the core of all issues of youth being able to, at least in government and politics, being able to change different issues, if not direct action in other means. But just the different levels of challenges that people have had to go through, that I've had to try to help, to the best of my ability, walk my friends through, of how to be able to actually exercise their voice at the ballot box, has been really interesting to see. And that connects both to the need, right, for greater civic education in our school system, but then also just the level of anti-voter measures and voter suppression that we see in different states across the country.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. What about you, Sonia?
Yeah, so having worked on campaigns, I mean, as we just discussed, it's really difficult without economic backing to run for office, nonetheless, to win. And having worked on campaigns, particularly within New York City, where we have an 8-to-1 matching funds program, which makes it easier for minority candidates to run for office, I know how important it is for campaign finance reform to take place throughout the country. I think that Citizens United and super PACs and all sorts of other organizations and institutions that create barriers for minority candidates to run and to represent our communities is really consequential and causes a lot of the other issues that we experience in our daily lives. And that's why it's such an important issue to me.
Well said. What about you, Asa?
So I'm gonna piggyback off of what a lot of people were talking about. They were talking about, education and just the lack of preparation that, the youth, we're not really taught how to, go out and vote. We're not taught how to, really become successful. It's always teaching you to do things one way, and everybody's taught it. I feel like that we definitely need more programs, and we need school to start teaching you, how to voice your opinion. But I feel that it needs to be done in a way that, not everybody's thinking the same thing. And I feel like everybody's usually on the same page, but everybody needs to have their own thoughts and opinions and feel that they're able to voice that opinion. And, different perspectives could come together at a young age, and people could feel comfortable to, when they graduate, they know how to go vote. Or if they want to, do different things, like say they want to be an entrepreneur, or, they have the right preparation and the right education to do, go out there once they graduate and just be successful and be happy in what they're doing.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. What about you, Miriam?
Thank you for asking me that. Just to piggyback off what all the other panelists said, I completely agree with the education part. I know me personally, I'm from Central Islip, which is a mostly Black and Hispanic town. So being that the town is mostly Black and Hispanic, we don't get a lot of funding for our school. So that forced my mom to send me and my younger brother to private school for our whole life. I've been going to private school since I was in kindergarten. So private school prepared me more than I think it would prepare kids who go to my public school. And I see a lot of kids from my high school, my private high school, graduating, going to college, becoming what they wanted to become. And I don't see the same for the Black and Hispanic kids in my school district because they're not taught that. I also know that my school personally, we have an elective class called participation in government, and it's not required. And I really think we should require that, because I think it's so important that we go out and vote and make our voices heard, because we're the change we want to see, like we're the future. It's going to be us. It's going to be us pretty soon. So I really feel like funding for education, for schools, stuff like that, that's really important to me, and it means a lot. And it affects me personally now.
So well said. All right, last but not least, Timothy, what about you?
I say getting more opportunities for people who don't have, like small schools, more minority schools, like my school and schools around us who don't have a lot of opportunities to, break out of the system that we're generally supposed to be in. Like people want to be certain things and they don't have, the funding, or they don't have the opportunities to get these certain jobs or opportunities that they have dreams and goals to want to be. And they just say, well, I'm just going to be stuck in the system. I'm just going to do what everybody else does. And that's not fair, because they don't get the same opportunities as everybody else. And I just feel like that's one big issue. So, yeah.
All right, awesome. Thank you all the panelists for all of your beautiful responses. Does anybody have any questions from the audience? You can unmute or say it in the chat, please. Or does anyone have any comments, anything they want to say after? Thank you, Retha. That's very nice of you. We all really appreciate it. Thank you, Rachel. That's so kind of you. All right, awesome. I guess we have no questions, but on behalf of everyone, on behalf of Dan and the rest of the panelists, I want to thank you all so much for being here. We really appreciate it. We had a great turnout tonight, and this is just the first day of our week of action. Please stay tuned for Tuesday. We're going to be having a text bank. Wednesday, we're going to create a little Instagram reel. Be sure to follow Minority Millennials on Instagram and Voters of Tomorrow, New York State Chapter for more updates. Thursday, we're going to do some phone banking. Friday, we're going to interact with our friends on social media and call on them to attend our in-person event on Saturday. So please participate for the rest of our week of action. And thank you everyone so much for being here.